Ready to go.
And we're live.
And we're live, yes. Now,
Still fine. Sorry for all the glitches, folks.
yeah, so we put up a post today on Twitter. We put up a post on Twitter today about Enoch Burke. And I posed a question, and the question was, is his detention in accordance with law? Now, loads of people were on saying, oh, he's in for contempt and he wouldn't stay away from the school and all this sort of stuff. Look, we know all that. The question posed was, is this detention in accordance with law? And the reason we state that is, let me just read what the Constitution says. So the Constitution says in relation to this, at Article 44(1), it says, no citizen shall be deprived his personal liberty save in accordance with law. Okay. And then the literal English translation from the Gaelic language, because that's superior, is it's not permitted to take his personal freedom from any citizen except in accordance with law. So, the question I posed is, what law did Mr. Burke break?
That's a good one, then.
So there's a load of people saying, and look, you have to leave your personal grudges or your beliefs about Mr. Burke or transgenderism or all of that to one side. Just leave that to one side. We're only discussing, is his detention in accordance with law? Because that's what's really important here. So you have to ask yourself, what does in accordance with law mean, right? And I'll quote from the Supreme Court, because they gave a definition of really what that means. And they said that the necessity of arriving at any judicial determination is provided that no person may be deprived his liberty save in accordance with law. The expression in accordance with law means in accordance with law which is not repugnant to the Constitution. Okay, so.
Now, hang on a second. So for the average Joe out there, I mean, my job here tonight, folks, is to stop Ben going overly technical and to try and keep pulling them back so Joe Soap understands why what you're saying is significant.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because it's very easy for people to hear those words and say, yeah, and what? So, for example, it says there, save in accordance with law means,
yeah.
So, in accordance with law, which is not repugnant to the Constitution. So, repugnant means
would be going against the actual wording of the Constitution or the spirit of the Constitution, right? So, what does the Constitution allow Enoch Burke to do? What are his personal rights? So the question has to be asked, has Enoch Burke the right to protest silently, dignified, the way we've always seen him on his photographs in all the papers, just standing outside the school with his bag? Is he entitled to do that under the Constitution? Is that one of his rights? And the answer to that is absolutely.
It has to be.
There is no question in anybody's mind that he has the right to do that. Okay, so a judge ordered him not to do that, right? And therefore he was found in breach of that order, and therefore he's in jail, allegedly.
Now, again, I don't know exactly. We went into court, so we don't know exactly. So we're depending on media reports here.
Yeah, what was in the media, yeah.
So did the media say that it was for trespassing on school grounds, or for being outside, or what exactly was the injunction? Do we know?
I think the injunction was to stay away from the school.
Right.
And not to be protesting or standing outside the school.
Okay.
Now, the question is...
That must be a lawful order, correct?
Well, it would have to be.
That's what I'm saying, for him to have to comply with that.
Yes, it would have to be lawful. So, in other words, the judge would have had to have the authority to make that law.
Yeah.
Because that law is not in the statute book. No. There's no law in the statute book. You cannot stand outside the school protesting. Okay? That's just the fact.
Peacefully or otherwise?
Yeah, peacefully or otherwise, yeah. Now, well, I mean...
or otherwise.
You can't be outside the school creating a disturbance because there's a law against that. But certainly not standing there peacefully and quietly in quiet protest. Now, he could be in a noisy protest either, But once he wasn't disrupting the school, and clearly from the photographs we see in the press, because I wasn't down there, you can clearly see he stands there with a bag. Sometimes a sad, solitary figure, I have to say.
He did cut a solitary figure.
But you couldn't say it was in breach of peace or any of that. So then you have to look at what is the rights of the citizens. So there's an article here, and it was in McGee versus the Attorney General in 1974, and it was a case about Article 43(1) of the Constitution. And Justice Griffin pointed out that the Irish version guaranteed not to interfere with citizens' personal rights, thus adding depth to the guarantee to respect them in the English version.
Let me jump in there again. Because Judge Griffin pointed out that the Irish version, now why is it significant that they're saying the Irish version? Mm-hmm. Isn't that because Article 27, I think, says that the Irish version takes precedence over the English version?
Yeah, if there's a conflict.
There's a conflict.
Yeah. So let's see what the English version says. Now remember, in McGee Attorney General, Judge Griffin pointed out that there was a guarantee not to interfere with personal citizen rights.
Yeah, not a suggestion.
Yeah, no.
It's a guarantee.
Yeah, it's a guarantee. And we've already now determined that Enoch Burke has the right to stand outside the school in quiet, silent protest if he wishes. I have the right to do the same. I could go down to the school in the morning and do the same. I could stand outside the school with a placard in silent protest saying, I don't like this school. Just as simple as that.
Now, I'm going to come in on a little bit there. I mean, we've had people do this for trade unions and that.
Outside hospitals.
Or all over.
Fire stations, wherever.
The point I'm going to throw in here is that if Gardaí come along and they say something along the lines of, oh, you're creating a public nuisance or you're blocking a highway or whatever, what always happened with trade unions was they marched slowly.
Yeah, that's right.
So
when you see a protest, like there was one here at the fire station not too long ago, and you'll see them walking around in a circle because they're not stationary, causing
obstruction. So now there's no obstruction. Right.
But in any event...
But they didn't do it for obstruction anyway.
Yeah, and I think the pictures of Enoch Burke on his own could hardly be described as obstruction, right? So he wasn't obstructing. So we've guaranteed, first of all, we've confirmed he had the right to stand outside the school in protest, silent or otherwise. He has the right to do that. And we've now established, because of Article 43(1) and McKee Attorney General, where Justice Griffin pointed out that it was a guarantee not to interfere with Mr. Burke's rights.
And just come in there, and that's 40.3.1, not 43.
Yeah, sorry, 40.3.1. Now, here's what the English version of the Constitution says. The state guarantees in its laws to respect and, as far as practicable, by its laws, defend and vindicate the personal rights of the citizen. Now, let's just change citizen to Mr. Burke and read that again. The state guarantees, because remember, in McGee versus Attorney General, the judge pointed out this is a guarantee. And the state, in its laws, to respect, as far as practical, by its laws, defend and vindicate the personal rights of Mr. Enoch Burke. Then the literal translation.
That's actually a much more powerful way of saying it. When you say it that way, it lodges in, it makes sense.
Because you need to do that to the particular situation. It's not just a citizen,
otherwise
but not
it's
every
a bit
citizen.
Ephemerate. It's just,
it's just citizen goes off into the thing, but not Mr. Burke. See, so that's why I wanted to put Mr. Burke's name here, and we'll do it again now when we read. This is the literal translation, and there's a slight little difference in the language here. It says the state guarantees to interfere, not to interfere by its laws with the personal rights of any citizen, including Mr. Burke. And it further guarantees, so there's another further guarantee, to defend and assert those rights with its laws insofar as it's possible.
Huge difference.
Huge difference. One was practicable, right?
Yeah, because what if it's not practical? It's irritating.
It didn't suit
the media didn't
at
like
the
it.
time.
Yeah, the school was
if
upset.
you say anything about transgenderism,
people get off.
Pronouns was all the thing last year. That was so last year. Your pronouns, so it wasn't practical, right? But in the Irish language, and this is the superior language when it comes to discussing these things from the Constitution, it says, will defend and assert those rights with its laws insofar as it's possible. So now let's ask
in other words,
question.
there's no choice but to defend.
Yes. So was it possible for any judge of the High Court to defend Mr. Burke's right to stand outside the school? Unless they're saying he'd no such right. And that would be astonishing.
Yeah, and also, what legal, lawful precedent are they relying upon?
No, well they didn't. You see, what they did was, and what they do quite often in court, because they get away with this, and nobody really challenges on them. And I think it's right to challenge this, because Enoch Burke is in prison for months, all over the Christmas period as well. And every Christian, human, honourable bone in my body says there's something inherently wrong with that. He committed no crime.
First of all, is Enoch Burke in with the criminal population?
Yes.
That's very important.
Yes.
Because he
Mountjoy is criminal. There's no civil section in Mountjoy apart from where the prison officers have their food. So I'm sure he's not been detained.
They haven't charged him. So, okay, well, can we get to civil and criminal matters? Let's clear that up.
Okay. So
Brian A. Walsh, in his book, who's a judge, wrote that the Irish Constitution views the law as either civil or criminal.
That's right.
End of.
No halfway house.
No hybrids. I've heard judges talk about hybrids in there. It's not. So
let's be clear. You should only be in prison in this country if you do the criminal act, right? Not a civil act. A criminal act. Now, standing outside the school because he wanted to protest is an absolute right that was guaranteed in the Constitution. It was a guarantee to Mr. Burke. The judge obviously made an order saying, you cannot stand outside that school. That's the judge making a law. Now, the reason I bring that up is because in Article 15(2)(1), it says the sole and exclusive power of making laws for the state is hereby vested in the Oireachtas. No other legislative authority has the power to make laws for the state. Right? No other legislative authority has the power to make laws for the state. Now, the direct English translation is similar. The only power to make laws for the state is hereby given to the Oireachtas alone. No other legislative authority whatsoever has the power to make laws for the state.
Now, I would also throw in that would include the EU.
Yes. So, in any event, in relation to Mr. Burke, was it a law that he cannot stand outside the school? Did the Oireachtas enact such a law? No, they didn't, because if they did, it would be shot down as unconstitutional, because it was a guaranteed right in the Constitution, guaranteed that he could stand outside any building he wanted in silent protest while not disturbing the peace or blocking roads or anything like that, right? Clearly Mr. Burke wasn't doing any of that. So the question is, where did the judge think he got the right to make such a law? There was no law. Now let's be honest, Mr. Burke wasn't harming anybody outside the school. He was probably a bit of a public embarrassment to the school because it was about this he, she pronouns, thee, they, them, whatever that nonsense is. But irrespective of that, who actually cares if Mr. Burke is standing outside the school now? Most people don't care. Most students were going into school and they supported Mr. Burke. You say hello to him. They liked him. He was a nice teacher. So my view is, what harm is he doing? Eventually he'll get tired of it, but he's entitled to protest there. I see people protesting outside the Dáil and they do it for months on end. So what? They're entitled to do it.
Yeah.
So what? They're entitled to do it.
So let's move along here. So here's the question then. And we've spoken about this on many an occasion. So they might say, well, if it's not a criminal contempt, right?
It's definitely not criminal contempt.
Then the only other possible option is civil contempt.
Yeah.
Now, civil contempt is positive law of some form or other, and maybe there are elements of common law, but even if...
It's still positive law because it's man-made law. Even if it was the common law, it's still man-made law.
Yeah.
You know.
But the Constitution is very clear that there's a distinct difference between law and positive law.
That's right. So if you go to Article 41, Vin, 1.1 of the Constitution in relation to the family, this is very important. It You read that out there, Vin. Can you see it there?
The state acknowledges that the family. Well, I read the original.
The English version first, yeah.
The state acknowledges, or the state recognises, pardon me, the family as the natural, primary, and fundamental unit group of society, and as a moral institution possessing inalienable and imprescriptible rights, antecedent and superior, or antecedent, and superior to all positive law.
Okay. Now, a quick Google for anyone. Positive law means man-made law, man-made statutes. A judge making up a law saying you can't stand outside that school, right? So that's positive law. Now, there's a few words in here. Inalienable, Finn. Would you like to tackle that one?
Yeah, you can't put a lien against it.
Yeah. So the rights that really can't be given away. Then the imprescriptible rights.
You can't sign them away.
You can't sign them away. And then antecedent.
They were here, they were more ancient.
Yeah, more ancient, from time immemorial.
Yeah.
And then superior, Vin.
Higher than.
Higher than positive law. Now, not only positive law, if you look at the word all in front of that.
Yeah.
Because people used to say to me during lockdowns, but this is positive law. You know, and I'd say, yeah, but if you look, because they'd say it's an emergency law, it's an emergency, there's a COVID, what was it? Virus or
We
something.
won't get into that.
Yeah, no, we won't get into that. Don't mention the war.
Don't mention that.
So I remember being stopped by the police, and he said, but you got to admit, like, this is emergency legislation. And of course, the writers of the Constitution knew that if you wanted to trample on people's rights, bring out legislation and call it emergency legislation.
Yeah.
So the writers of the Constitution were very clever, and they put in the word all. So it didn't matter what type of legislation. It's a school annoyance legislation. It's transgenderism legislation.
I mean, they literally stopped people breathing by putting face masks on them. They maybe didn't stop people breathing, but they were attempting to restrict
and
inhibit people breathing.
And that's why the writers of the Constitution had come out from British rule, which is the old common law that they talk about with the contempt. And they had come out of the old British law, and so they wanted to make sure that the Irish people would not get sacrificed at the altar of these global giants that would eventually try run the state. So they said the rights of the family is superior to all positive law.
Can you read actually the
so now the literal translation from the Irish language is the state acknowledges that the family is the basic primary group unit of or for society according to nature. So that's not transgenderism. That's according to nature. Man, woman, only two sexes, right? And that it is a moral institution. So you must stand up for your moral beliefs, right? Which has inalienable, invincible rights. So that's the invincible word comes in there, Vin, meaning can't be defeated. And which are more ancient and higher than any human statute.
Boom.
So again,
that's a kaboom.
Yeah, so there's no difficulty here.
Whereas they actually, in the little blue book, they say positive law instead of saying higher than any human statute.
Yeah.
Which, if they hadn't have done that, people would have understood it a lot clearer.
Yeah, so a lot of people wouldn't have known what positive law is and have to go check it. Positive always gives the impression of this is a positive move and it's terrific. And a lot of positive law is not. Just
so people know where to get this. You used to be able to get this book in the government publications office. It was about, it was a good size of a telephone book, and I think about 1,000 pages or near 1,000 pages in Molesworth Street. They shut down the office in Molesworth Street and they refused to sell it to people I know who went in trying to buy it and tried to order 100 copies. They refused at 20 quid a pop at the time. It used to be available for download on taoiseach.gov and that evaporated from there. The only place I think online you can download this is from scribed.com, SCRIBD. And the reason I know you can download it from there is I put it there. So, now, and I think sometimes you might have to pay a fee. It's only a couple of quid, folks. But this is 1,000 pages worth of information you do not want to be without.
Now, I see a lot of people on Twitter saying, I don't have a law degree, so we should leave it to the legal experts. Well, that's like saying, I'm not an expert in social media, so I shouldn't be on Facebook, and neither should you. And if you're hoovering in your house, you're not an expert, and you didn't design the hoover, so should you really be hoovering? It's a nonsense. First of all, the Constitution...
It's an illegitimate argument.
Yeah. First of all, the Constitution was written for the ordinary people in the ordinary language. And there's plenty of cases, and I think De Valera said it himself, that it is the ordinary meaning of the Constitution is the way it's to be read. It's not to be read in a legalistic way, because quite often in the legal world, up can mean down, black can mean blue, in can mean out, understand can mean something else, all of these things, right? So that's why it was not to be read in a legalistic way. It was just to be read in the ordinary common understanding of the English words as they appeared on the paper. And that's why you don't need a legal degree to read the Constitution or understand it, because if there's a different meaning given to it in a legalistic way, that's not the way it was meant to be. So it doesn't matter. The words are very simple. It's not permitted to take his personal freedom from any citizen except in accordance with law.
Now, in accordance with law, not in accordance with positive law.
Now, that's a key point as well. Even if there was a statute, which there isn't, that he was not to stand outside the school, which there wasn't, right? That would be positive law. But this is in accordance with law. So to check where does it say something different in the Constitution, you go back to Article 40. No, sorry, it's the in violation of the dwelling.
Yeah.
I have it here somewhere.
40.5.
Here we go. 40.5 as well. The dwelling of every citizen is inviolable and shall not be forcibly entered into, save in accordance with law. Right? But so the rights of the family is superior to all positive law. So here the Constitution talks about two types of law, meaning the rights of the family is superior only to positive law, not to all law. So it means the family don't have the right to murder their neighbours or anything, because that's natural law, and that encompasses a lot of other laws rather than just positive law. So it's superior to that, but that only, not to all law. But the right to take away your freedom has to be in accordance with law. That's not man-made law. That's where you actually committed a crime, murder, rape, theft,
isn't it a situation,
all of those things which are common law.
So isn't the situation in accordance with the law and with the Constitution and the way this relates to ECHR, that those articles actually back up the position we've taken here and that we're discussing, rather, that even through the European legislation or versions thereof, they say essentially the same thing. So we have éıꞃe here, lodged in with criminals.
Yeah.
Now, and I'm not having a go at criminals, folks. I'm just saying.
I met some of the nicest criminals.
Right. When you were in there.
When I was in Mountjoy on trumped up bullshit, positive law, contempt bullshit charges as well.
So nobody's having a go at anybody here.
Yeah, so
what
look,
we're saying is, why is that man in there? And, I understand his family have gone into the courts, and maybe the courts don't like their conduct. I don't know.
What?
I don't see what the issue is there.
I don't like the conduct either, so what?
Yeah, that doesn't change anything.
I don't like éıꞃe protesting outside the school.
Right.
So what?
So, exactly. So
What's
what?
it got to do with
I don't
me?
like the colour of his hair. There you go.
Yeah.
Or the fact that he has hair. Yeah.
Yeah. Or the fact that his hair is black and not see-through. We don't like that thing.
Yeah, I have see-through hair. It's actually in my eyes at the moment.
No, but you understand what I mean? This is not a personal thing.
No.
So what I'm asking people is...
Hang on. That's right. Because, look, we're not on here because we have an axe to grind for or on behalf of the Board family. We don't know them. I don't know them. Do you know them?
I don't know. I've never met them.
Any of them, never met them.
Yep.
I'm here talking, and so is Ben, because this is wrong, folks.
Yeah.
And
now,
I just want to bring this back, though. I want to bring this right back to the beginning, to where everybody found out about who Ben Gilroy was. And it was Constitution Halt's sheriff video for what was that, the Wellstead family, where there were members of People Before Profit and all other sorts of people, and Ben came to everybody's attention, not because he was an expert in law, folks, not because he probably didn't know his arse from his elbow when it came to law at the time.
Not much at the time.
But he knew one thing: he knew it was wrong.
That's right.
And this is wrong.
Yeah,
right.
That's
it's
right.
wrong.
And look, sometimes
that's good enough. That has to be good enough sometimes.
Yeah, we all know it's wrong. He's in prison with criminals, committed no crime. Now, I know people say, oh, he breached the court order. Was the court order valid? What was it based on? The judge says you cannot stand outside the school. The judge swore an oath. Let's look at his oath.
There you go.
Right? I knew I'd put this all in the papers to talk about. So, the literal translation.
Well, hang on, let's go with the original one first.
Original one, you do that
well,
one.
we call this the watered down version. This is the, if you buy a little blue book constitution, this is the version you'll read.
Yeah.
If you download the book from Scribed that I'm talking about, the direct literal translation,
And you'll see the difference.
forward by Brian Lenihan, Micheál O'Cruel, and it's a government publication, by the way, folks. This is not a conspiracy theory. I didn't even like it.
No.
Okay, so I'm going to give the one that you get in the little blue book.
Yeah.
And judge's oath as per constitution. And it reads as follows. In the presence of Almighty God, I do solemnly and sincerely promise and declare that I will maintain the Constitution of Ireland and uphold its laws, that I will fulfil my duties faithfully and conscientiously in accordance with the Constitution and the law, and that I will dedicate my abilities to the service and welfare of the people of Ireland. May God direct and sustain me. Ben.
And the literal translation. In the presence of God the Almighty, I, blank, that's where you put your name in, am solemnly and truly promising and declaring to be a support and shelter to the Constitution of Ireland, and to preserve its laws, to fulfil my duties faithfully and conscientiously in accordance with the Constitution and the law, and to do my utmost for the welfare and service of the people of Ireland. God direct me and protect me. Now, remember at the start of this talk, we said, we referred to in a case from the Supreme Court, where it was a guarantee of the right of people to protest. That was a guarantee, and the Constitution says that the state will guarantee by its laws to protect and vindicate those personal rights of Mr. Burke to stand outside the school. Right? The judge then said that he will be a support and shelter for that Constitution. Shelter, meaning no damage will come to it. I'm going to shelter all the rights in here, and I will conscientiously, in accordance with the Constitution, do my utmost for the people of Ireland. The question is, if Enoch Burke had a right to stand outside the school in silent protest, which he did, and the Constitution guaranteed that right for Mr. Burke, and the judge said he would shelter those rights and uphold those rights for Mr. Burke being one of the people of Ireland, then where did he come to the decision to tell Mr. Burke, you have no such right, stay away or I'll put you in jail, and he's put him in jail?
Therefore,
Ta-da!
and you've said this to me before, Ben, and I think this is very important. Who was that idiot politician who stood up and said all laws we're making are to restrict freedom?
The Green Party.
I can't remember her name.
I forgot her name. It's just as well I did.
Yeah.
But she actually thought she was voted in
Yeah.
to restrict the rights of the people.
In fact, no, she thought everybody. She thought every politician is there to restrict your rights. And Ben said this to me before in the past, and he's correct. And I think I believe the Master from the High Court, Edmund Hanahan, said in the past that the Constitution is a shield, not a sword.
Correct.
And these politicians are using it as a sword, and they're directing it at us.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a shield.
Yeah. For the people.
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to talk about, Vin, because we have gone on a little bit, the last thing is we go back to page 1 where it all began, as they say. And this is the preamble, because you hear a lot of people talking about the common good.
Yes, let's nail this.
And everything they do is for the common good, because even the girl from the Green Party, because you reminded me of that, she stood up and she said we were restricting the rights of the people for the common good.
Yeah.
So Mr. Burke is in
Which,
jail.
by the way, almost every tyrant in the history of tyrants has all stated.
Always used for the common good.
And that's why there's a conditional aspect to the Constitution here in the preamble. Let's nail this down.
Okay,
please.
so do you want to take that, Vin? You don't have to do it all.
I'll take the beginning,
start.
and you can take it from the good bit, right?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I broke it up into.
In the name of the most holy Trinity, from whom is all authority, and to whom, as our final end, all actions both of men and states must be referred. We, the people of Éire, humbly acknowledging all our obligations to our divine Lord Jesus Christ, who sustained our fathers through centuries of trial, gratefully remembering their heroic and unremitting struggle to regain the rightful independence of our nation.
So, our independence. Then it goes on to say, and seeking to promote the common good. So this is the common good now we all seek to promote.
Promoting it.
Yes.
Not enforcing it.
No.
Not jamming it down your throat there, version.
Right. Yeah.
Just promoting it.
So promoting it with due observance of prudence, justice and charity. Now think about those three words, with an innocent man that didn't create a crime sitting in Mount Joy for months all through the Christmas period as well. Prudence, justice and charity, right? So that the dignity and freedom of the individual
Enoch Burke
may be assured. Now, am I missing something here? Have we gone absolutely like wokey land in our constitution?
See that?
This is what the common good was about.
See those words there, Ben?
Yeah.
See, and seeking to promote the common good with due observance of prudence, justice and charity.
Yeah.
See the two words that say
so that. Yeah. So there's your kicker.
That's the qualifier.
Yeah. So in other words, it's all very well saying that we want to observe the dignity and we want to observe prudence, justice and charity. But why do we want to do that? And it's, as Vinny said, so that something's coming now.
Yeah, in other words, why did you build a roof over your head?
Yeah, it's so that
the rain and the wind
we would be dry.
Right.
So to promote the common good with due observance of prudence, justice and charity, but the reason so that the dignity and the freedom of the individual may be assured.
Now, not the groups.
No.
This is the thing.
You couldn't put an individual in jail so as to ensure the freedom for everyone else.
Yeah, how does that make any sense?
So this is always for the individual, because if the individual has freedoms, then collectively individuals have freedoms. You couldn't have it the other way around.
The idea is when you protect every individual, automatically any groups of those individuals are also protected. And what they're doing at the moment is they're trying to introduce legislation to protect groups, which that in itself is repugnant to the Constitution. So the hate speech is bullshit.
And not only that, you've often heard that people say, if you trample on his rights, you've trampled on mine.
Yes.
Because he is the individual for the common good. So if the common good is damaged by trampling on Mr. Burke's rights, then it's damaged for all individuals. Your rights are trampled on. Because tomorrow it could be me. I mean, yesterday it was me. Today it's Mr. Burke. Tomorrow it could be anybody else. Yeah. And that's the point. That they have no entitlement to do this. Mr. Burke is fully entitled to stand outside that school and to protest in silence the way he did. There was nothing wrong with it. There was nothing wrong yesterday with it. There's nothing wrong today with it. And there'll be nothing wrong tomorrow with it. So why is he sitting in jail? It's certainly not for the common good, of which the Constitution was given to us.
Ben, will you put a copy of this up on underneath when we're done?
Yeah, it might be no
Just
harm.
if anybody wants to see it.
He'll have to do it. I'm not techie.
I would sort it.
Yeah. But so
20 past 9.
Yeah, so we'll wrap it up there, folks. But I just want to say in the comments that people were saying, oh, he disobeyed a court order. Where would we all be if we disobeyed a court order? Well, look, let's say that I used to punch my wife around the house and she got a court order restraining me from coming to the house. Then that's different. Yeah. I committed a violent act against my wife.
Yeah. See, he doesn't even want to say that too later.
I was just looking. I was going to say something else. She walked behind me. No, but you know what I mean? That's a different thing. That's not standing outside the school in silent protest. One is a vicious attack against the female, and one is just a constitutional right to stand outside the school and protest. I don't have a constitutional right to box the head off my wife. That wouldn't be for the common good of the individual. Although she might learn a lesson or two. I know, I have to stop those jokes.
Yeah, I'm leaving now.
I know, look, you have to have fun. Look, it's a disaster what's happening with Mr. Burke. And as we said, we don't know him.
Don't know from a bar soul, folks.
The family seem like a good family. Everybody's giving out about, they attacked the TD. They didn't attack him. They had a go with him. He's a TD.
At the very worst, they might have jostled him a tad.
Yeah, so what? There were two women. Oh no, one of them was the boy there, wasn't he? Yeah, sorry.
But they didn't hit him. They didn't hurt him.
I'm sure he didn't feel threatened. They're not a very threatening family.
On top of that, you want to have a little bit of a tougher skin in this day and age if you want to become
Especially
a politician, in Ireland,
yes.
or a Garda.
Yeah, suck it up. You're getting well paid for it, right?
Yeah.
And in fact, you're doing nothing else. So let's be honest.
And if you don't like it, leave the office.
Yeah, that's right.
Let someone else in.
And you too took it out of office, by the way. So let's remember that. Now, finally, just on this, the only criminal act I seen in relation to the Burkes was when the young sister, when she was being ejected from the courts. Now, she's a very slight young lady. She's a very slight lady, always dressed immaculately. Her hair is always immaculate, always presents herself very well.
Yep.
She is a solicitor, and she looks like a solicitor, if you know what I mean, right? But no, you know what I mean. Like she's always. In court. They're always immaculate.
Very respectfully.
Yeah, in court. Let's be honest, and that's the way she goes to court. Yeah. And to see her being manhandled and thrown to the footpath,
that was disgraceful.
Was disgraceful, and that was a criminal act. And if I seen Ian Burke or anybody else doing that, or Enoch Burke, or anybody doing that to a woman, I'd be the first to call for him to go to jail.
Yeah.
Because that's a criminal act, and that's why it's detestable to us.
Listen, we've seen it before. We saw at that time Gordon Smith was leaving the courts,
right.
and a member of An Garda Síochána come up behind him and hit him a puck in the ribs.
That's right, and a sly one at that. So that's why we get offended by that, because most good, decent, family Irish men get offended by those things.
Yeah.
The same with any sort of repugnant act, and this is a repugnant act. If I was out with Enoch Burke, he wouldn't strike me as a person that would start a row in a pub or anything, so I would be comfortable out with him having a coffee somewhere. You know what I mean? There's no issue. And to my mind is, and let's say you totally disagree with his stance about what happened at the school, that's irrelevant. Don't let that cloud your judgment, because if we make bad law, we make it for everybody. Yeah. Remember that. We make it for everybody.
Can we just do a little quick sum up?
Yeah.
Because, again, I just like everybody. First of all, hope everybody had a good Christmas and a good Happy New Year. And all
Happy
that.
New Year.
We can get a little ranty. You're actually getting a little ranty.
Yes.
Just a tad. And I understand it.
Yes.
But I'm also conscious that I don't want to be too long on this, because I want people to... What do we want? That's what I'm saying. What do we want people to do about this, Ben? Okay,
so the people should be writing to their local TDs, write to the Chief Justice of Ireland, write to Helen McEntee. What? No, sorry.
I didn't say that was the win.
And raise these concerns. As Vinny says, he will pick this up. Just take a couple of points. Don't go through the whole lot of it. Just take a couple of points from this and say, isn't it true that there was a guarantee to protect Mr. Burke's rights to protest outside the school? That's either a fact or it's not. Was it a guarantee, right? Because it does say you can assemble without arms peacefully. He didn't even assemble. He was just there on his own. He was there on his own without arms. So it was an absolute right guarantee that he had to do that, and he can continue to do it.
Can we also make the point that, and again, a little bit off the topic slightly here, folks, but this essentially seems to me to be driven by a combination of politicised media.
Wokeism.
Wokeism.
Let's call it what it is.
The far woke, as I call them.
Yeah. Go woke, go broke.
The newspapers and their ilk.
Yeah.
It seems to suit their apparent agenda.
Look, all media is woke media in this country, apart from, say, Gript or something, but I'm talking about the mainstream. I mean, watching TV3 or RT, they should just have woke media as the badge.
Yeah.
And so there's an agenda pushed by them. But we're just ordinary family men, and we would rush to the right of any woke person that we knew of who was being assaulted or in jail also.
Yeah.
We would absolutely do that, because we are always maintaining that the individual is what promotes the common good. Whatever's done to the individual can be done to all of us. If their rights are trampled, our rights are trampled. And that's the point. So write to all of these people, and maybe in the new year, if Mr. Burke is in prison...
Ask the questions.
Yeah, ask
the questions.
And maybe if Mr. Burke is still in prison sometime in the new year, I will call for a peaceful protest outside the prison. And why will I do that? Because it's a constitutional right guaranteed in the Constitution for me to do.
And I wonder, has the family inquired of the governor of the prison? Does he actually have a legitimate order to hold Enoch signed by a judge? I wonder, does he have one of them in his filing cabinet?
Yeah. Now, just going through a few of the comments. Garrett O'Madeira, is it? Bunnock the Hearn was given to us to protect us from corrupt elite political class, corporate buddies, and unelected global narcissistic nutbags for the ordinary people of this land. Quite correct. That's exactly what we said when we said for the common good. Yeah. So the dignity and freedom of the individual can be maintained. Somebody says, is the family in the Constitution the next vote? So they're trying to change that. Absolutely. Now, me and Vincent, anybody who wants to check this, we have warned this from years ago. We have always said, if you never learn another article in the Constitution, learn Article 41.11 of the Constitution, because you as a family are superior to all this man-made statute bullshit.
In fact, the preamble effectively is the Constitution, folks, and all the articles thereof must reflect the values in the preamble. Yeah. Think about it. They can't have an article in the Constitution that's not in line with the preamble, and therefore they can't produce legislation that's not in line with the articles of the Constitution.
Yeah.
And they say that regularly.
Yeah. But in fairness, there is no legislation to prohibit Enoch Burke from standing outside the school. So we're not blaming the Oireachtas. Yeah. We're blaming the people who swore to uphold the Constitution, to uphold the guarantees of those rights for Mr. Burke. They didn't do that.
Although the government and the people in power at the moment, they're all aware of this situation. Yeah. I mean, they can't claim they're not aware of this.
No, and they let him down badly. Very bad. They have neglected their duties to Mr. Burke. Mr. Burke was on his own. And
if they let him rot, they'll let you rot.
Yeah. Mr. Burke was against powerful institutions of media. Minister McEntee's husband is, a director of a company that does these puberty blocker drugs and everything. So there's a huge media agenda against Mr. Burke and the tiny Burke family. Yeah. And that's why we have the laws to protect them. The guarantee that if these big corporate forces come as a sledgehammer against that family, the organs of the state were to come out in full force to protect them rights. They didn't do it. They let him down. And therefore, they acted ultra-virus, first of all, to the oath of office and to the Constitution, and they also, is a touch of malfeasance in public office in relation to this.
I'm going to throw something in, and this is going to be a bit wild for some people, maybe even you, this concept. I'd even argue the Defence Forces have let Enoch Burke down. That's right. If they are the Defence Forces for the Irish people, why are they not showing up at the gates of Mountjoy with a couple of things slung over their shoulder saying, open up, hair oil, we need him out?
And not only that, to all my friends in the Law Society and the Bar Council of Ireland, and trust me, I have many, many friends there.
You do. Mm-hmm.
Where are you for Mr. Burke?
Yeah.
Right? You know this better than we know this.
Yeah.
At least you should.
You should.
Right? And if you don't, you know now. So why is there not a swathe of applications, habeas corpus applications, into the courts to get Mr. Burke out? I know the Burkes themselves tried to do it. That probably wasn't the best approach. But there's some senior counsels out there among you who must be concerned about this wokey ideology that's destroying not only our country, but many countries across the world. And somewhere, somehow, someone has to make a stand and say, you're jailing innocent people, you're trampling on the rights that were guaranteed to them, and you're getting paid as judges where you swore to uphold and shelter those constitutional rights. You've done nothing of the sort, and you've let yourself be infiltrated. And the last thing I'm going to say about that is, do you remember the Golfgate saga? What did they put out in the media? Oh, they weren't wearing masks and they weren't socially distancing. Do you know what the real question there was? Why were the directors of the vulture funds out at a golfing do with the judges of the superior courts? That's the real question. But when they got caught, it's all, oh, make it about the mask, and everybody fell for it. Well, everybody didn't fall for it, but the woke media pretended they fell for it, and that's all you heard. Nobody actually asked the question. Yeah. Directors, the vulture funds, out for dinner with the Supreme Court. I remember I happened to be accidentally, more or less, at a dinner with the Master of the High Court. It was on the front page of the Irish Times.
Yeah.
Why is Mr. Gilroy...
What was that sketch of? Me, the third Earl of June, in a girl's dormitory at this hour of the night with my reputation. What?
But, so listen, folks. Ireland is a cesspit of corruption, and if we don't stop it, and when we get to the stage, no matter what you think of the Burkes, no matter what
or us,
or no matter what your beliefs are, or your beliefs on transgenderism or pronouns or everything, put that all to one side. If you're going to accept that innocent people can now be put in jail, we have a problem.
For potentially forever.
Yes, forever. That's the point.
There's no time limit.
And in fact, he would have been better off doing a criminal act.
Yeah.
Because if he punched the judge in the face, he probably would have got 3 months in prison. So at least he'd know when he'd be getting out. Now, I'm not advocating...
He might have got a bit more than 3 months for punching the judge. But had he decked somebody or something like that...
Well, he might have deserved it. But anyway, I'm not advocaing punching judges in the face.
No, you are not.
No. My friend Anthony Carlin went to arrest the judge one time, and he got 3 months in jail.
That's right.
Only for trying to arrest him. But anyway, what I'm saying is, if he actually did a criminal act, he would have a time limit that he can count down with the little ticks on the cell wall, so he knows he's getting out. Right now, he's in there for life. And you made one valid point, Vinny, to me earlier before we came live.
Oh, yeah.
And it was about his conscience not allowing him to do something. Did he refuse to obey the court order?
So failure,
really
refusal,
important.
or neglect is usually how they do these things. But in contempt, and the reading of all the material I've done on this says, he has to have refused. Where he didn't refuse. He may not have complied, but that's not a refusal. There's a passive lack of assistance, where he said, I cannot. In other words, if the judge said to me, I'm ordering you to stop the tide coming in, or I'm putting you in prison for contempt. Well, I can't stop the tide from coming in.
Yeah.
Right? Now, that's one thing, but he said it was a conscientious thing, it's conscience.
Yeah.
So, if they said to me,
shoot this man.
Yeah, kill Gilroy and everything's forgiven, Vin.
Yeah.
Whatever you did, it's off. Just shoot Gilroy.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Yeah. Not because it's me.
Well, I mean to say that.
Especially. It's only because his conscience will be at him. We do have a conscience.
For a while, anyway.
Yeah. Depends what the money is.
Yeah. What's the offers?
No, so you know what I mean? Like in America, they used to have these called
an unconscionable bargain or an unconscionable
conscientious objectors to the war,
the
and they didn't go to war and join the army. Now, some of them were put in jail, and there was huge uproar about this because they're saying, no, they can't join the army. They're Christians. They're commanded by God not to kill. You can't put them in jail for that because now you're interfering with their right of religion and expression of religion.
Yeah, this is practically internment.
Yeah, similar. Similar.
Listen, I think it's time we go, is it?
Yeah.
Are we done?
Yeah, Vinny wants to eat. Talk to you all soon, folks. And by the way, a Happy New Year from
me. And a Happy New Year from me.
See you, folks. Bye, bye, bye. Now.